Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our August 18th council meeting. Before we begin the meeting this evening, we're going to take a moment of silence for the passing of our city attorney, Jay Oliveras. Okay, before we start the meeting also this evening, we're going to be entering into committee meeting of the whole again to have a second reading and discussion on Ordinance 412, an ordinance to regulate the orderly operation of trucks and vehicles of excessive weight and size on public streets in the city of Norway, otherwise referred to as the truck ordinance. Mr. Anderson, what's changed in this one from the last one?
We made updates to some of the comments from the last meeting. Also, I wanted to just make something clear that from following the last meeting, there's some comments about the staff proposing the ordinance, and what I want to make it clear that, you know, this has been about 2 years in the making. The initial request was made by some council members a couple of years ago. It's taken us a couple of years to kind of work through what kind of rules could be put in place if we moved in this direction, and so we are taking you know, the request from the council on doing this. It did come out following the meeting that we were pushing the ordinance, and I just wanted to make sure that that was clear, that you know, we are responding to some complaints and also the council in asking us to do something on this. So. But we did incorporate comments that were made at the last meeting. We also did not get a chance to handle some of the definition requests that you had asked. That's something that we were going to need some legal advice on, and so you know, we were not able to do that for this meeting.
Any other questions, comments on this to be added? Otherwise, we're going to be moving it ahead for probably the public hearing at our next meeting. Is that the intent right now?
That would be the next step, unless you wanted to have further comments. But I mean, a public hearing can be comment time as well, and you know, then we would try and schedule enactment or not moving forward, depending on council's desire at that point.
So at our September 8th meeting, we'll be looking to do the public hearing on the truck route ordinance. Any questions or comments? Anything from the public? Anything from the public? Any questions or comments? Any questions or comments? Okay. Hearing none, we'll go call the order. Call the roll.
Pledge.
Oh, sorry. Pledge allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Stop. Now roll call.
Mr. Oja?
Here.
Mr. Meneghini?
Here.
Dr. Hayes?
Here.
Mr. Gottstein?
Here.
Mr. Ball?
Here.
Approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of August 4th. Any additions or corrections?
I make a motion we approve the minutes of the meeting of August 4th.
Support.
Motion made by Dr. Hayes, supported by Lee. Roll call.
Mr. Meneghini?
Yes.
Dr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Gottstein?
Yes.
Mr. Ball?
Yep.
Mr. Oja?
Yes. Approval manifest 2014-16 in the amount of $800,326.38. Chris?
I don't have any specific questions, but we did spend an awful lot of money in electric this time around, looks like. And then Also, I saw, noticed we spent a lot on cold patch. Was that just getting caught up from all the past work?
Yeah, that, we're going through probably 3 times more than we normally would do, with all the potholes in town. Yeah.
How many
And,
more loads are you expecting to do?
we just picked up another 2 loads, but a majority of that's gonna be done to fix the water repairs that we did across the roads. And, probably another 6 loads total, somewhere in that range.
That's all I have.
Okay, George?
I only got a couple, Jeremy. On page 5, Ray or Trish, is this our final payment on the clubhouse?
This is the final, bond payment for the clubhouse.
I mean, there's still other payments on the roof and...
Yeah,
other
there's a
things.
payment from the roof
Yeah,
and,
this is our, basically the clubhouse is
correct,
ours or theirs, whoever.
correct.
Okay. And then on page 9, Joe, maybe you can answer this one. The 4th line from the bottom at $778, D-ring, belt support tool holders, is that, I am assuming a bunch of tools or
Yes,
make up that amount?
that was the apprentice tools for the apprentice lineman.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, Trish, that $1,259.30 for Spring Valley Ranch payment, I don't approve of.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Dr. Hayes?
Questions?
Lee?
Well, I got more of a comment than a question here. On page 1, halfway down on mayor council elections, UP Travel and Recreation Association 2014 investment allocation, $300. I'm not complaining about the $300 because we need this, but last year when I came through Lower Michigan and stopped in St. Ignace, and there's a Michigan Welcome Center there, blah, 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 recreation, whatever, there was not one pamphlet there about Dickinson County. They had things from Ironwood, Sault Ste. Marie, Marquette, every place in the UP except Dickinson County. And I would like you to tell the gentleman that, Ray, when he gets the check for this.
The Iron Mine brochure was there.
I didn't see it, it was out, because I went through every one.
It was
And I
there
thought it was
about a month ago when I was there.
a month ago, last year. This
No,
was
this
last year.
Yeah, it was this year, like,
Oh, maybe this year, but not last year. There was nothing there on on Dickinson County at all. That's all I have.
I don't have any questions. With that, looking for a motion. Oh, is there any questions from the public on the manifest? Okay, looking for a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion, we approve manifest 2014-16 in the amount of $800,326.38.
Support.
Motion made by Chris, supported by George. Roll call.
Dr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Gottstein?
Yes.
Mr. Ball?
Yep.
Mr. Oja?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Does anyone from the public wish to address the council on the minutes, manifest, or any agenda item? If you do, please come up to the podium, state your name and address for the record. There'll be further time for comment on any subject at the end of the meeting.
My name is Jean Bradford. I live at 2465 Travis Farm Road. I just want to make a comment. We've been opening the meeting, very difficult to hear you. Very difficult to hear you in the audience. If you could just raise your voice, I'd appreciate that.
All right. That's the end of the, that's at the end of the meeting. Comment on any subject is at the end. Okay, yep. You'll have a time after we get through everything else. First thing we have on the agenda this evening is under appointments and presentations. We have Chuck Anderson from the Norway Volunteer Fire Department here to tell us about the FEMA grant that we got for the purpose of for the purchase of a new tanker truck.
Yep, Chuck Anderson, I'm representing the Norway Fire Department tonight. I just want to get you up to speed on a grant that we just received. About a week and a half ago, Carl Levin's office called me, and told me that we were successful in receiving an AFG, FEMA AFG grant, which is Assistance to Firefighters Grant, which is a competitive grant throughout the United States that we've been trying. I've been trying for about 4 years to get this grant. It is a very, very competitive grant. What we've been trying for is a new tanker called tanker/tender truck to replace our 1979 converted milk truck. And we were successful to the amount of $250,000. The city of Norway's responsibility is 5%, which is $12,500. For the last 4 years, I've been putting that dollar amount in the budget so we would have it there. And the money is in our budget, that $12,500. So we know where that's coming from. The way the grant works is, again, it's competitive. There's an application package that Mary Pollard helped me out quite a bit with that application. If you make it through the application, then it goes to a peer review group. And if you make it through the peer review group, then then you still have one more shot of getting kicked out, and we made it. So this is going to be a 3,000-gallon tanker with a 500 GPM pump. It will fight fires, not only bring water to the fire, but this apparatus will fight fires also. So it gives us an extra pumper truck. And I've also heard that this will help with our ISO ratings, so that's going to be a big plus. Now, there's another side of the story which helps the city out. Originally, I was told that we would have to scrap our tanker truck. FEMA said it has to be scrapped. Now, I don't know if you're aware of the tanker truck. It's set in 1979, but in the year 2000, we had a new chassis put under it. We still had the old milk truck, but we had a 2000 chassis underneath it. FEMA said, scrap it. Well, that's kind of a hard pill to swallow. Well, this year they said they changed that. We don't have to scrap that chassis. That 2000 International chassis has 5,200 miles on it. We can use that internal government. The tank, if it's not going to be used, has to be scrapped. But the chassis can be used intergovernmental. We can't sell it. We can't give it to another fire department. That's basically, we have 1 year, the clock started ticking. By the time I get this bid, which I really hope it gets bid out in September, because these have about a 9-month build on these fire trucks. So I got to get these specs written and out the door and get this truck bid out on. Competitive bids, FEMA is very, very specific. There's no, I can't say I want an International chassis or I want a Mack. I can't say that, or I want this company to build it. It's completely competitive. The specs are just open for everybody. With that, is there any questions on this? Just wanted everybody to know what's going on.
Yeah, Chuck, you answered one of my questions already on that chassis. I was going to ask you what type you were getting. You answered that one. That tanker, if you can't, rather than scrap it, can you give it to some other, not utility, but some other fire department?
No, it's specific. It can't be used for another fire department. In the past, other fire departments have taken that and told FEMA they have a bad tanker and applied for one, saying that that's their bad one.
Okay.
So that can't be done anymore. It has to be used within the city or scrapped. Now, stainless steel, I do not know value of stainless steel, so if the city can use this for a tank truck, you're better off. I mean the tank part of it. I think you have plans for the chassis.
Is there any possibility, Joe, that you could use that the tank itself in the street department for?
We've already had discussions internally about the use of the truck, and we believe that the best fit for that truck is in the DPW. We would take the tank off the truck and scrap the tank and we would put a salt rig for salting and sanding and an underbody scraper on it, is tentatively what we had discussed last week regarding that particular truck.
And if and when you do scrap the tank itself, I'll have to have copies of the scrap.
Documentation.
FEMA's going to want to see that, okay, it was officially scrapped.
It'll be a little bit big for watering flowers there, right?
I was thinking golf course.
You got to take the duct tape off of it. We got it wrapped up with duct tape right now. It leaks pretty bad.
Oh, does it?
I told FEMA, we're running out of duct tape. We got to get this grant, you know.
Oh, so it's
I didn't realize it was that bad, Chuck. I'm sorry.
Just a valve, there's a valve in the
Yeah,
back,
it's-
that's pretty tough.
I'd just like to say, Chuck, that you and Mary did a great job on that. I know there was an awful lot of paperwork
It's a lot of
involved in
work.
that. Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. It's a big plus for the city. I'm sure we'll have an open house when the truck rolls into town.
Chuck's generous by saying 4 years. I think I've
I
worked
don't
longer than that
remember.
with him on
It's been a long time.
that. It's longer than 4 years.
No questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Let me know if something comes up that you need to know.
Thank you, Chuck. And like I said, congratulations to the fire department on getting that truck, and thank you for all the effort that was put into getting it. Okay, next on the agenda, we have Resolution 2014-25, the MDOT trunk line maintenance contract, October 1st, 2014 through September 30th, 2019. Mr. Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a 5-year agreement put together by MDOT. This is the exact same contract that we approved in, was it 2008, I believe, or 2009? I mean, word for word. The only thing that we did on it was change the contact information, so I know we did, I know we had legal look at it at that time, and but it is standard form, so it's pretty much a housekeeping item to get the resolution passed and move forward.
Are there any questions on this, comments? Otherwise, I'm looking for a motion.
Make a motion to approve resolution 2014-25.
Support.
Motion made by Dr. Hayes, supported by Lee. Roll call.
Mr. Gottstein?
Yes.
Mr. Ball?
Yeah,
Mr. Oja?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Dr. Hayes?
Yes.
Next is a tabled item from last meeting, the professional services, 14th Avenue storm sewer design. Mr. Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is an item, as you mentioned, we tabled at the last meeting. Looking for some additional information. One thing we did do is we took the surveying out of this work order. That leaves this work order at $9,500, but this is for design of the storm situation that we have on 14th Avenue. Representatives from Coleman are here tonight, I believe. There he is. There's Jeff. Come on up, Jeff. We did go back and forth a little bit on the project, just to make sure our heads were in the right location, you know, as far as where we're on the same page. I think this can be somewhat of a complex situation. It's a pretty steep run. And Jeff, you looked at it. Do you have any comment on it?
Yeah, it's definitely doable. And we took a look at it, and there are, you know, the steepness of it is, and the drainage area that it takes in is maybe larger than one would think when you look at it. Our biggest concern about this is going to be the need for the outlet near Strawberry Lake and whether that's going to require a joint permit between the DNR and the Army Corps of Engineers. It would be handled through the DNR most likely, but those permits can get quite lengthy, and we think that we can get away without having to do one. And our thinking behind that is if we can use the existing storm sewer, then things should be easier, and it shouldn't take us as long as we've put into this proposal. But if that existing storm sewer won't handle it, I kind of suspect that the numbers are going to show that it's not going to be able to. But that remains to be seen yet. What we would probably do is, in order to try to avoid a joint permit, we'd probably design a kind of, I don't know how to explain it, a ditch along the walking trail where this thing would fill up and then spill over, instead of going into Strawberry Lake at an exact point or a pipe discharging right into it, it would basically fill up this ditch and then spill over this ditch and travel overland, being filtered out. You get some treatment in the ditch and also through the vegetation as it goes into the lake. But we looked at the floodplain elevations, and we think we can stay above those floodplain elevations with this ditch. First thing we're gonna do is try to see if the existing storm sewer can take it. That's the easiest approach. We always try to do what's easiest. But if not, we would attempt to locate this ditch and try to avoid the joint permit. Our proposal right now does not include the joint permit. Those get kind of dicey and time consuming. We think we can get around that and do things properly, but it's a way to do this properly without having to go through the joint permit process.
Jeff, if they're allowing you to take water down here on this end of town and let it run into the old mine shaft, and that's from storm sewers down there, why do you feel that there should be a problem over there?
Just because it meets the criteria for a joint permit, if we discharge it directly in there, there could be wetlands involved, there could be...
Same thing over here.
I don't know about that situation. It could be grandfathered in from a long time ago. This is gonna be
No,
fresh, new
that
construction.
That was only done 2 years ago, right? That was applied for, or how that was? I don't know why you
Is that a
left that
surface?
get in there.
Is that a surface water, Ray? I'm just not familiar with it.
No, it's no mine pit, I mean, or a mine shaft. I mean,
It may be
you know,
a
the
different
definition
type of
between
water
surface
body.
water.
Surface
It
water
was just
body.
street water?
No, I mean, it's not dumping into a surface water.
Oh,
Lake instead of a shaft.
It has a chance to settle out. When it hits the mine shaft, the sediment can settle before it's pumped out.
yeah, I get you.
Jeff, do you see a problem of getting this done? Or is it just a matter of more paperwork with the permits? Do you think they would say, you can't do that?
No, I think it could be permitted in the end.
More paperwork?
We'd like to try to avoid that.
Yeah.
Yes. And along with that, there could be some bells and whistles and strings that could cause more construction money. You know, we don't know what them are yet.
What's your estimate that if we did have to have a permit, what would the engineering for obtaining the permit cost?
It's probably a couple $1,000 more, just a rough guess. We have to see what criteria it meets. Are there official wetlands there? Do we have to delineate them? What else they may want to, do they want some other type of study of the floodplain elevations rather than what we have available? Kind of depends on what they ask for. And we'd have to have a frank discussion with them if we have to go that route. Right now, we don't plan on going down that route.
Jeff, is there any problem, or do you foresee any problem of filling that water along the ditch line, which you said, and then overflowing across the path, I'm assuming, and going down with erosion?
I kind of wish Scott Noack was here. He has more of the details on it. I don't know that he planned on it flowing over the path. Is the path right at the edge of the slope? Or is there room between the...
There's, the trench that you're talking about would have to go on the lake side.
Okay.
There's not enough room between the walking trail and the street. We have a guardrail system
Okay.
right there, and there's not enough room for it.
Okay, so I guess it would be on the downstream side of the
Oh,
path.
okay. I was just wondering if there'd be possible of doing that and then ending up with erosion. Well, now you lost the path and the whole works here, and so we gotta start all over again. That's what, I'm sure there should be some drawings out there that we can find out what's going on.
Yeah, the intent wouldn't be to take the water across the path.
Well,
Yeah, it would be to put it in this trench, and the trench would go to the lake, not over the path.
okay.
And we're gonna try like heck to try to get the existing thing to work somehow and avoid the trench altogether.
Do you have any idea how big that sewer, storm sewer line is there?
I myself do not, until we run the numbers. I haven't looked at it myself preliminarily. We've had some people in our office do it. They might be able to give you a guess, but I guess guess I'm not in a position to do that right now.
What would be the estimate cost of the engineering and construction if you did run it into the existing storm sewer?
With the construction costs,
Well, the engineering and then the
Yeah.
construction, just a rough estimate.
rough estimate, if the city does the work themselves versus a contractor, I think our materials estimate was around 55,000.
55, yes.
Something like that. And as a general rule of thumb, if you bid that out to a contractor, you're gonna probably double that at least. It could be up into the 120,000 range with a contractor. But 55 for the materials, is about what we're looking at.
Materials, you're just talking storm sewer pipe,
Yeah. It's probably gonna be fairly big stuff, 36, something.
and we can handle that in-house?
Yeah, we should be able, we have a large excavator. Depending on the workload, you know, I was planning on trying to do it in-house to save money. So with Coleman's help with engineering and someone being out there to help set grade and everything, I think that it's doable.
And we're still trying to do that for this fall?
I don't think it's gonna happen this
I don't
fall
think
anymore.
that's possible this fall.
No.
It might be like the spring.
Spring project?
Yeah.
Yeah, the other, the design isn't gonna take that terrible long, I don't think, but, we're gonna have some easement issues, you know, you just talked about the survey before, we're gonna probably run into a few issues with them that take a little while to work out when you have, you know, property owners involved and getting a hold of everybody and stuff like that.
Is there any possibility of a grant situation for this?
It's all local, which there's no program out there that I'm aware of. I mean, we can keep looking, but when it comes to local street type work,
I don't know of anything on the stormwater side. You know, there used to, possibly back in the days when they were doing the ice grants, you might have been able to try something there, but them haven't been around for 4 or 5 years, and we don't know if or when they're ever coming back, so right now, they're not out there.
My issue with this isn't with the project. It's the same thing. I brought it up last week, last meeting. It's with the funding of it, that we're pulling from electric again. And electric's not a bottomless pit of money that we can keep pulling for every little project from. Well, when things break in electric, you're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars to fix, minimum. And so I don't like the fact that we keep pulling out of electric for everything. I have no issues with the project itself. I think it's something that's needed, but I just don't like the way that it's being funded.
I agree 100% with you, Jeremy, but, and I'm not doubting a word that you're saying. We are so far behind in work, on our city work right now, it's a shame. I mean, we haven't even caught up with our streets from last winter. I don't know how we're gonna continue to keep trying to do this stuff in-house, Joe or Ray or anybody. I mean, it's not your fault, it's not Ray's fault, but we're gonna have to try to come up with something different, because we just can't keep falling behind further and further.
Are we better off just doing the engineering for this year and then trying to fund the project for the next budget session?
And that's a great possibility, yes, that's,
So just from a timing
yeah,
standpoint?
from a
whatever we gotta
timing
do?
standpoint.
I hate to rush
Yeah.
it.
Well, from a workload standpoint with the Department of Public Works, we're entering the fall cycle fairly soon, and we have leaf pickup and other things that are going on. We still have streets that we have to fix with cold patch where we dug up the services across roads. We have more than enough to do, and that's why I made the comment that, well, I don't think the construction will happen this fall, but if you can get the engineering done and we're ready to go early next summer, then I think it's doable. But like George said, there's a lot of stuff out there that we have to do.
Joe, my point, if we're, running a day-to-day schedule, okay, yeah, we got an open plate here at the end of, down a couple of months. We don't see an open plate. We don't see an open plate for another year. I mean, I'm not putting the blame or pointing no fingers at anybody. It's just that we got such a workload here that our crews, I don't see no way that our crews are gonna be able to handle it.
It's very difficult,
You
George.
got 3 people working.
I know, it's very difficult with the scheduling, George, to try to get all the work done. But we also don't have the money to go out and hire all this stuff done, and we're trying to do the best we can with what we have and get as much done as we can, and spending the least money we possibly can. And I agree with, yeah, I know you know that.
Joe, I
We've- yeah.
agree, but I said, we're gonna have to try to do something different here.
With a
Okay.
project
To
like
get this
this,
work,
Well-
to
Push-
get this work done.
pushing this project into next budget year,
Mm-hmm.
like Chris had suggested, would give us the opportunity to put it in at the start of the budget to figure it out to make it work.
We've got another small job up here on Railroad Avenue where the water runs right through a guy's backyard. You know, and this is another
Yeah.
one of these little projects. Sure, they're all little projects, but they all take time and they all take
They
money.
all add up. It's a lot of work.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
If there's any other questions or comments, otherwise I'm looking for a motion.
Well, I guess one question would be, if we're not gonna do the project till next year, what's the point of spending money on engineering this year?
There might be some time to get, if Jeff's mentioning about the easements, it might take a couple months to get the engineering and the easement stuff taken care of.
Well, they're
Jeff?
not doing any of the surveying.
What's that?
We're not doing the land swap surveying, the property surveying that we talked about at the last meeting. There is topographic surveying that has to be done, that's part of that cost, you know, for doing the design. They have to do the inverts on the storm. You know, if you decide not to move forward with the engineering, there's a lot of field work, so the engineering really can't start until they can get out in the field. So that could be, you know, March, April, maybe next year at the earliest. You know, so really you can push it off till next year. It's not a major issue. It's just that the engineering isn't gonna start. It's not like you can just pick it up in December, January, February. This is, they have to go out into the field.
Excuse me a minute, Ray. Jeff, what is it gonna take, how much more is it gonna take to find out on that sewer work and what can handle? You were saying, well, we don't know the size of the sewers. How much more are we gonna have to get involved to know which way exactly we're gonna go with this? If we have to redo the sewer, or is the sewer's gonna be able to handle it? Can we empty it into the ditch? I mean, how much more of this?
I would say the sizing of that sewer is probably about a third of our costs. To get the sewer sizes and figure out, you know, the hydraulics of everything with the drainage areas and stuff. It's probably about a third of our costs.
But wouldn't it be smart, Ray and Joe, and for the council to know exactly what our costs are and how much more it's gonna take to do this job, rather to put everything off for next year and then have a big question mark start off next year? If we don't know exactly what we're even gonna, how much it's even, what the work is even gonna consist of.
Right.
Am I right or not?
Right, and we would need to do the survey like Ray mentioned as well, some topographic survey, not the property surveys. You know, the topographic survey would be done. So I would say, you know, roughly half of that cost would be the initial stuff, the upfront topographic survey, and then the hydraulic calculations. Would be, you know, that's a rough guess.
I would think that we should get this done so we know exactly where we're sitting. What our next move is. How big of a trench do we have to dig?
We
How
can,
much it's gonna-
we can bring it to that point as well, and just quit working on it until you say to start working on it too, you know. That's not a huge deal.
I would think that would be the way to go.
Just soon get all the engineering done, and then you have our costs, we know what we gotta do, and budget for it.
Exactly.
It probably would be good to also get going on the property stuff and easements, just because, you know, it's a little bit of a wild card there. But we can hold off on, you know, finalizing it, and, you know, once we get to a point where we can make some decisions, are we using the existing pipe, or do we have to put in some new stuff, and get a cost estimate on that, how much is it gonna cost? That can certainly be done, George.
Good. Why don't you go that way, Chris? Want to make the motion?
Okay.
I would just say get it done, but I'll make a motion that Coleman Engineering be approved for the 14th Avenue Storm Project Engineering for a price not to exceed $9,500.
Support.
Motion made by Chris, supported by Lee. Roll call.
Mr. Ball?
Yes.
Mr. Oja?
No.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Dr. Hayes?
No.
Mr. Gottstein?
Yes.
Okay, next on the agenda, we have line painting bids, Section Street, Kimberly Road, and Forest Drive. I know for the council's benefit, 2 more have been provided tonight than what was in the packet. They were on the table when you came in. With that, Mr. Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is something that we put together this past week. The PK Contracting is in town with Railroad Avenue, and with the maintenance work that we had done on Section Street and Kimberly Road, we need to have a center line and some fog lines up in Forest Drive area put on the road. We did get a price from PK last week. We did finally receive 2 additional prices today, or quotes today. As you can see, PK is the low responsive bidder, but we do want to make sure that we take their pricing. I think that what they did was we gave them the lineal footage of the roadway and didn't specify a double yellow. And so I think what they did was they have 1 line instead of 2. So what we'd like to do is double their quote for a not to exceed number until we can fish out, that would be the worst case scenario, and then we could fish out what the exact design, because on Kimberly there probably is some hash lines as well. If you double that, it's still less than the 2 other contractors. So the price not to exceed would be $5,091.62.
Ray, are them, on the double yellow, they wouldn't be all double yellow on all lines, would they? Or-
Well, down Section Street they would be, because you put a double yellow where you're not passing.
Okay,
On Kimberly, they would not be, because there's some passing lanes on Kimberly.
just on a hill,
Right.
okay. Okay, so you're doubling just to make sure that you're covering the cost?
Yeah, just to make sure, and it's still less than the other 2 quotes, so.
Okay.
It would seem to me that it wouldn't cost twice as much to put 2 lines as opposed to 1 line.
Well, it's the material cost. So,
Right, I agree with the material cost, but that's not, usually that's about half the cost.
right, but we don't know what that is, Doc, so what we're asking you to do so that, because we don't know what the exact number's going to be from PK, and so if we double their number tonight, then we have enough room to be able to work with them to get their final number. This is still less than the other 2 contractors, and so, the not to exceed would allow us room to get that done.
And it includes the white marking on a walking path on Forest Drive, that extended asphalt area. There's a 4-foot walking area for the kids to school to mark that out, other than the yellow lines. The footages do.
So the prices would be PK Contracting, $5,091.62, Century Fence, $8,709.35, and Advanced Pavement bid was $7,598.66.
Yes, and those last 2 you just said were for double lines. I didn't have it right the first time, but I got it right the other 2 times, so.
Hopefully they'll make them straight, because last time they weren't, but down Section Street. I had the shakes. If you're gonna spend that amount of money, you better make sure to do it straight lines.
I make a motion we approve for PK Contracting not to exceed, what was your number, Ray?
$5,091.62.
$5,091.62.
Second.
Motion made by George, supported by Chris. Roll call.
Mr. Oja?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Dr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Gottstein?
Yes.
Mr. Ball?
Yes.
Last thing on the agenda is Resolution 2014-26, waiver of reversionary clause between City of Norway and Anderson Memorial Endowment Fund. I had brought this to council's attention a few meetings ago, that the Anderson Memorial Endowment Fund was looking to sell the old hospital to Mark Babalani, and there were some deed restrictions. We had a reversionary clause, and the hospital had restrictive covenants. The hospital has waived their restrictive covenants. You have a copy of the document they passed in the packet. The one that you have is unsigned and draft. However, Tricia today did contact the hospital, and they have said that that it was passed, it was signed, but the person that could get the copy to us was out of the office today, so they would be getting us the signed copy tomorrow, but they assured us it was passed and signed. So the hospital has waived their restrictions as our attorney had recommended first. So now the request is that we waive the reversionary clause, which would allow Anderson Memorial, the endowment, to sell it to Mark Bablani.
I got a big what if. What if we don't get that properly signed paper tomorrow from the secretary of the Board of Trustees? I don't like the idea of
You could make the motion.
signing something, making a motion to something that I don't
You could
see.
make it contingent on getting the signed copy.
Okay, okay.
My question, I mentioned this to Joe a while back, was that generator and transformers that are down in that basement. Would the city have any use for that, or is there possible other things that we could do with that rather than leaving them in there? Has anybody ever checked on that?
Well,
Where do-
I just have a question.
Were they purchased at the time they were installed? Or
Well,
did anybody ever look back to see if?
the
city
hospital
put 'em in
owns
there,
them. I've been down there twice, about 3 or 4 years ago, looking at them. They made a proposal to me to look at it to see if we could use it for backup generation for like City Hall or somewhere else. And although it is a very nice generator, it has to be put in some type of enclosure, and it's quite large, and then the auto throwover switch. So it's not as simple as they were just going to take it out and use it somewhere. There's some strings attached to it,
Right.
but you can get over those hurdles. But my main point we would have to purchase it from them. I don't think it's given to us, unless I'm wrong. I'm assuming we'd have to buy
Assume that
it.
it's all part of the same package deal.
The generators that are.
But we don't own the hospital now.
Right,
The hospital owns those, so they would be
so we
included
don't
in the
want to
sale.
spend
of the hospital.
$50,000.
No, if I have to buy them, it's not worth it. You know, if they give them to us, we would look at taking them out. There's a lot of issues with getting them out of the basement. They'd have to be disassembled. But if they're free, that's one thing. If we have to purchase them, I don't think it's worth our time.
Do you think or feel that would be worthwhile looking into?
Yeah, I do. I know that Ray has mentioned to me several weeks ago about a comment that the potential purchaser made about them, but I'm not privy to the whole conversation. You know, if he wanted money for them, if he was going to give them to us or whatever.
You think it would be worthwhile that before we sign this over and give it to them, that we should get an answer on this first? Ray, what's your feeling?
I never had an indication as to whether he would give them to us or whether he wanted us to buy them. I think that they really have no use for him and what he's going to use the building for. I don't really. I know the generator getting it out of the basement is going to be quite a task. Not quite sure on the transformers.
Yeah, the transformers are fairly easy. The generator is the hard part. It's got to be disassembled. The opening through the manhole in the back is not real big, so you can't just take it out in one big chunk. So it's not large enough to use it for offsetting any generation or needs of the city other than just a standby generator at one of our existing facilities. Say wastewater treatment plant, possibly?
Isn't
City
that
Hall?
part, isn't that part of our contract on this next coming up?
The wastewater treatment plant expansion contract
Right.
does have a standby generation for that plant in it currently, yes. It is possible, again, I'd have to look at the sizing of it, but maybe it would be worthwhile looking at it for that reason, because it would be probably cheaper to build an enclosure for it if we got it for the right amount of money, than buying a totally brand-new one.
Well,
But if
I
we
mean, I
don't,
certainly
if we
agree
don't,
that
if we
this
don't release the reversionary clause, so they can just decide to not get rid of it, not sell it, and then keep it, and then nothing would change from where it is now.
You could add another contingency to your motion that gives us the right to go in and deal with that. I mean, it makes it a little complicated, but
Well, you either have to,
I
I would say
would
either
like
have to be
I would like to
$50,000 or
hold
you gotta
off
pass the
until we get
resolution.
information here rather than having all these little strings attached to it.
So you want me to go down in the basement at the hospital and you want me to see how big it is and get an idea about getting it out and what it might take to reinstall it somewhere useful for us and about what kind of money that would cost.
Don't you think that Dave Krause would be an asset here, Joe?
Yeah, and I would probably, I have to talk to Bruce Hawkinson, and, because they've already done the sizing. I don't know, I'd have to look at his paperwork, but he has a size of what they need over there at the wastewater treatment plant, and see if it fits that criteria. But that's fairly easy to do, that's not difficult, so I can do that.
Is that natural gas or diesel?
That's a diesel.
It was put in, I would say, 60s, early 60s.
1963,
when it was built.
yeah, as we put it at the time of construction.
58,
I would say it was put in at the time of construction.
58, 59, Doc, because they were building the hospital when I graduated from high school. That's when they built the hospital. I graduated in 58, so 59 and 60, I worked for the city, and I can remember going in there, washing on plaster and reading the meters. So I think it's worthwhile. I mean, we got something here, and why let it go to waste or just get out of our hands?
Well, we don't have it, the question is, do you wanna buy it?
Well,
It
I
belongs
still
to the
think it's worth looking
belongs to
into.
Dave Anderson, basically, and he's selling it. And so we have the right to buy it first, I would think.
Well, actually, the way the reversionary is, if he gave up interest in it, we would just get it. We would assume the property.
If Dave walked away
If
from
he
it.
walked away from it, but he'd have to walk away. So,
Is he walking away?
no, he's not walking
okay.
away, he's selling.
He's selling, okay, all right.
So if we really wanted it, we would have to buy it. But I don't think it's a piece of property we want, and we want to deal with. Especially over the generator that,
No, I don't think we need the property, but
Well,
Maybe the generator.
it says in here that Mr. Babalani's acknowledgement that he shall comply with all of the remaining provisions of the restrictive covenant agreement, and the same are expressly reaffirmed by the Board of Trustees. What are these other,
the hospital has a series of restrictive covenants on the building, that it couldn't be used for another medical facility. There's a whole,
Well, another-
there's a couple of pages of them, restrictive covenants that the hospital had. When we got it from the hospital, and because it initially came to the city and then it went back to the endowment, when it came from the hospital to the city, there were 2 pages of restrictive covenants that we could not do this or that.
and most of that concerning basically another hospital?
Right, and so that transferred to Dave when it went to the endowment. So the way they're saying it is Mark is assuming that too, so he couldn't turn around and sell it to Bell.
Oh, I see, okay.
But if you wanted to see them, we can get
I
you.
would like to see them. Curiosity, if nothing else.
Is there a motion to approve or postpone?
I'd like to make a motion, we postpone this until we get all our answers here.
Postpone till September 8th, it's the next meeting?
Fine, if we can get our stuff together by then.
You think we can get that together, Joe? 3 weeks?
Yes. It's not going to take me that long to check with Bruce and then go down there and check the sizing.
Okay.
That's
So
a week.
there's a motion to postpone till September 8th.
Will this, do you think this would propose any hardship on Mr. Babalani's part?
I'm not sure about Mr. Babalani, but I think some of the pressure is coming because of Mr. Anderson. He's out in Arizona right now, and that's the feeling I got.
I think we should go ahead and sign off of it myself and then work with Mr. Babalani about the generator if it's reasonable. He has no use for it.
I agree with you on that, Doug. But we have a motion on the table to postpone. Is there support?
I'll support.
Okay, any other discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Dr. Hayes?
No?
Mr. Gottstein? No. Mr. Ball?
Yes.
Mr. Oja?
No. Is there any other motions?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2014-26 with the contingency that we get the signed papers from the hospital.
Support.
Motion, any other discussion? Motion made by Chris, supported by Dr. Hayes. Roll call.
Dr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Gottstein?
Yes.
Mr. Ball?
No.
Mr. Oja?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
No.
Okay, that's our business this evening. Does anyone from the public wish to come up and address the council? If you do, please come up to the podium, state your name and address for the record. You'll have 5 minutes.
I'm Mary Williams. I live at 309 Section Street. And I have a concern about the way they cut these trees down in the city. I had called Mr. Oja, Mr. Ball, and I had left a message with Mr. Anderson. I talked to Mr. Pickard. When I came home one evening, my good tree was cut down. I have no idea how you went about to the city and decided what trees had to be cut and what didn't. There was nothing wrong with my maple tree. It maybe needed a couple little trimmings at the top, but it was not a dead tree. I had just mowed my lawn. I looked at it. It was perfect. I've driven down Section Street. There's other maple trees that are dead at the top. Are those trees cut down? No. I don't understand who went around town deciding what trees have to be cut, what other. Okay, when Mr. Ball said, okay, well, we will replace your trees. Well, according to this letter that came with our bill, yeah, you can get a tree for $100 and some. I cannot afford $100 and some to put a tree up. And I know a lot of other residents in the city cannot do that either. I try to keep my property looking nice. I try to mow the lawn, which is what we have to do, but since they redid Section Street 2 years ago, they didn't even plant grass. I have weeds growing on my boulevard. And I'm really upset over this, and I'm not getting any answers. And I would like, there is not one tree now from 4 houses down all the way up to the corner of Section Street. And none of us can afford a tree to be planted there. You know, trees give oxygen to the environment, and we keep cutting them down. And I've looked at all these other trees around town, and there's deader ones than mine was. I don't know who gave, do we have a forester here that decided what trees had to be cut? It doesn't make any sense.
Mr. Pickard went around, and after you called me, I did check into it, and I talked to him.
Yeah, but nobody got back to me, and
Because I didn't get back to you because you had already been told all the information. They had already talked to you and told you. The tree was over half dead, and it was
No, it
small in
wasn't.
diameter.
It wasn't.
All the trees selected were over half dead, and they were dying. So, while we had them in town, we took the trees that were going to be problems in a few years, we took them out as well.
Well, I see trees just another block down, at the top of it's all diseased. It's the same maple
There are
tree.
other trees that we would like to get to, though we spent $30,000 taking out those
Yeah,
in
I
this round.
understand, yeah. And
So-
I still have the stump in front of my house that they were supposed to come and get. And am I gonna get a tree in front, or no?
No.
Because I can't afford a $100 tree.
We're not gonna be replacing
You know,
boulevard trees.
Kingsford went around and did the same thing. They put trees out. They didn't charge their residents anything. And I'm getting to think this is a ploy to the city so that you get money. You go around chopping trees down and then expect the taxpayer to pay $100 and you get, yeah, it's a cheap deal, but still, there's people out there that aren't making the money all you people are, and we have to come up with $100 to put, and try to beautify our boulevard. I would like, you know, I moved and I live in the Midwest so I can see beautiful colored trees. Section Street has none now, not across from the school. And I really think that's unfair to the citizens here. First off, you know, this sidewalk, that's another thing. You did all these new sidewalks from a grant for walk to school. I can count how many kids actually walk to school. I live across the school. And my sidewalk in front of Section Street is probably one of the worst sidewalks there, and they're not replacing that. And what is the reason why?
The reason for that was not eligible for that program, because it already touches the school property.
No, it doesn't. It's
You're
on it's across the street.
You're across the street, but that road is the road that touches the school property. So it's not the route to school, you're already at the school. That was why they did not allow us to include that. We did check on that. That was one of them we wanted to include.
Well, then, you know what? Maybe you should drive the kids to school, because everybody parks in front of my house to let the kids off to school. Do your kids walk to school? I don't think I see them walking to school. You know, it's like, I can pick out the kids that walk to school, and there's probably, maybe, at the most, 15. Because I watch the little cross guard on the corner. You know, and it's ridiculous. Granted, you got money from the government to do this, but the sidewalk that needed it the most, and it's not even touching the school, and they're not already at school because they have to cross the crosswalks. If they use my driveway, yeah, which they used to, then they can cross right across the street. My driveway is the only one that crosses right there to the school. There's not another driveway on that whole section. So they are not at the school when they're walking across Section Street. They have to crosswalk, and they have to
I'm
crosswalk.
explaining to you why they told us it was not eligible. We did try to get that section in there. That was one of the pieces we wanted. It was initially in the project, but we were not allowed to have it because they said it touches the school. I'm just answering you as to why that one wasn't.
And did you ask them how it's touching the school?
Because it's right across from it. It borders the school property, so that you're considered at the school.
Yeah. Well, I think something needs to be done here, because you're spending money to chop trees down, you're spending money to put sidewalks in, you're not letting the people know when you're gonna be doing this. It's been over 4 weeks. I haven't even been able to get down my alley, and they still have a sign up over there. And the sidewalk is already done. They don't let us know ahead of time when you're doing anything.
The sidewalk, there were public meetings held here at City Hall that went over the whole project and the time scope for the schedule for the project.
But then you went and did Section Street the same time they're doing the sidewalk. So we had no way of people had to drive down and park on, down the alley. You couldn't even get down the alley. You had to drive on their property to park, because you had 2 projects going at one time. It doesn't make sense. You know, you got all these supposedly intelligent people here. What is going on? You don't let the citizens know when you're doing this and that.
Everything was
Well,
discussed and
you
everything was
need
okay.
to post it better than what you're doing, because not everybody listens to this meeting.
When with the sidewalk project, you received a letter telling you when that public meeting was, because that was a public meeting.
I'm saying not everybody reads these.
That's
you
not
know?
our fault, though.
Well,
If you're
then
not
maybe
gonna
you should
if
put
we-
it on the
If we
TV.
gave it to you in the mail, it's not our fault that you don't read it. It's
Well,
not.
according to this, you know, it's like you gotta buy your tree or whatever.
Yes.
Okay, what if I decide to get my own tree and put it up there?
There's a right-of-way ordinance that you cannot be putting stuff into the right-of-way like that. You'd have to get approval through the city. It's part of our tree ordinance and our right-of-way ordinance.
But it's okay for you guys just to cut down any tree you want.
We cut down the dead and half.
And to leave no grass, but all weeds on your boulevard. You know, now, after this last project, I bet everybody gets nice grass growing, but now that Section Street had theirs done 2 years ago, we have all weeds growing on ours. And I know some complaints were given at that certain time when that happened. You know, I tried to keep my yard looking nice, but when you got a bunch of weeds growing, it's pretty hard to keep it going. And I'm not about to fertilize the city's property.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to address the council?
My name is Bill Mazza, 507 Second Avenue. On these sidewalks now, was this all done by federal and state money for these sidewalks? Or
It
did the
was
city
state-
have to pay?
It was state money, the city had to pay for the engineering.
And the school wouldn't pay half because they're the ones who wanted it, right?
It was a joint venture. The school, we put a request in, we didn't get any feedback from the school. We've put in for the boosters to put in some. The school hasn't put in anything for it. The engineering costs were borne by the city because it was
It
our,
really isn't fair to the taxpayers. They should have kicked in their half.
The bracket fund did give us $10,000, and you'll see that
Oh, toward it.
coming out.
Oh,
Yeah. So
okay.
we appreciate their
Okay.
contribution for assistance.
Yeah, because it wasn't fair. I mean, they tore down that real nice fence going around the playground and they just built another one. You know, after they got that, that tax back.
Yeah.
But they could have paid that. It would have been a good gesture to the people in Norway
I agree.
to have paid half of that.
We
For
questioned
15,000.
that from day one, Bill, about, hey, we questioned that from day one about,
I
hey,
was at
They should have
meeting
put
time to
something
kick in.
That they should
They
put
have
something in.
come forward.
Yeah.
It would have been a good gesture toward the taxpayers in the city, for them to do that.
And like Ray said, we're grateful that the bracket fund did agree to.
Yes.
One other thing, I was looking at your plot out here for Strawberry Lake now. You seem to have quite an ambitious project going there. How is that gonna be paid for? You got $13,000 from the federal government, which wouldn't do anything toward what you've got planned on those plans. Is this something gonna be in the future, or you got the
That's
ball
through-
field, you got?
Yeah,
you got-
we submitted that through DNR grant.
Oh, for
The
the-
same kind of grant that we
Oh,
had
for
for
the
when they
DNR.
built out Marion Park and some of the other.
Okay.
So if that grant doesn't go through, then the project doesn't go
Oh,
through.
okay, because I was wondering about
Yeah.
that. Now, they're doing the surveying already for that next year's projects, I take it, with the blue flags. We just got through with the yellow flags. Are those blue flags going to last through the winter with the snow plowing? Because they're on the boulevards.
Which surveys
Mead and
are-
Hunt has been up there. They've been up on Second
Oh,
Avenue, they've been going
they're-
down some of the streets.
Yeah, they're taking, what they're doing is they're surveying the sewer inverts. So they need that for some of the design work.
Okay.
So it's not right
That's
away.
for,
or
that's for a
possible.
large, that's for a big water sewer project that we're.
Right.
we've got
Yeah, I
coming.
know that, I figured that's what that is, but are those going to last during
That's-
the winter with the
Well, they
snow
don't,
plowing?
but they don't really need that, Bill, because they're getting inverts off the sewer. What they need is the elevations,
Oh, okay.
manhole locations. And
Okay.
so it's really more locational for right now.
So then we can take out the yellow ones now because they're through doing the sidewalks.
Yeah, I'm not sure how far they are along, but
They are,
Yeah.
they're down in our area.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Judy Skolk. I live at 434 Walnut Street. Your sidewalk project.
Yes.
I had a crosswalk by my house for 35 years. I have no more crosswalk. The man across the street doesn't have a crosswalk, but the rest of the streets have crosswalks because I took my side-by-side and I went up and down those streets. You took it upon yourself to take out my crosswalks. Do you know how many people have stopped at my house, pounded on my door and said, "Where is the crosswalk?" I said, "Well, you go ask whoever fixed here." Something about 85 inches, 85 feet, I don't know what in the devil it was. And you stopped by my house. And I told you about the kids. And I have little ones that come walking up Fifth Avenue there. All right, there are no sidewalks on Fifth Avenue whatsoever. Down through the hill in Dale are no sidewalks. But when they get to my house, they walk up into my driveway, they come down my sidewalk, they go across the street on my crosswalk. Now, they gotta go over here, then they gotta go over there, and then they gotta come back over here. 3 times those kids have got to cross the street. Or go out in front of Linda's house, which is in the middle of the block. Now, in the winter, when the snowbanks are all up nice and high, well, how do you teach your kids to cross the street? You go up to the crosswalks, you look this way and that way. But when you have the snowbanks that we have had, and a little kid about this high is coming out into the middle of the street, and a plow is coming 90 miles an hour down the street, somebody's going to get hurt. And you did not complete the rest of that sidewalk. Everybody else got a sidewalk across the street and then over there. I got 8 little squares coming this way and that way. And then the hump. What's with the hump? I came down here. You got new sidewalks down here. I don't see humps in your streets down here. Now, the last rainstorm we had 2 weeks ago, don't look at that clock. 2 weeks ago, the water is now running down. It is coming up to my front door. In 35 years, I have never had that. And when I get an indoor pool in my living room, because that water is coming over this stupid hump, the city of Norway will have the 3rd largest sewage job they've ever had. Because why is that hump in that sidewalk? I asked the engineer, I don't want any excuses. Why is there a hump? Comes down, flat sidewalks. Do you not have flat sidewalks? I got one with a camel hump in it, and across the street, and across the street. They're putting humps in the sidewalk. What in the heck for?
With the crosswalk, I haven't seen the hump, and I will be over again to take a look at
Well,
it
they all
tomorrow.
got humps.
Joe,
Why are them
do you
humps?
know anything?
I'm not familiar with the
So
hump.
we'll-
The
Yeah.
sidewalk is flat, this is
Right.
flat, right?
Yeah,
Then you go and all of a sudden there's this hump. And they all got, they're with this engineer. You know what, there ought to be more women engineers, and probably more women on the council board too, come to think of it. So now the water is coming.
yeah,
I get it coming down the hill this way.
okay.
Now I got it coming this way. I am the lowest house in that block.
Right.
So where's the water coming? Right up onto my porch and right up to my door. Thank God it stopped the Lord because I was there. I already got towels by the door because I said to David, we're going to get a pool in here.
Well, that one, we'll take a look at that, because I didn't see the hump, but we'll take a look at it.
I'm not familiar with the hump, but I'll go look at it.
With the
See what you're
crosswalk
talking
being
about.
taken out, the crosswalk was taken out because of American with Disabilities Act requirements. It has to have a certain slope, and the slope at that crosswalk was too steep, and there was no way to easily or efficiently make it the
Yeah, but
correct slope.
Bob isn't up high across the street from me and his crosswalk
No,
is
but they
fine.
took that across the street because the crosswalks have to match. For somebody who's blind and is, say, using a cane, they have to have, if the crosswalk is on this side of the road, or has to be a matching one on the other side, so they can go straight across.
Well, I
So
haven't
that's
had-
why, that's why, because the slope is too high, that hill is too steep. They'd have to slope it back so far. That's honestly why it was taken out. It was ADA
Well,
requirements.
You know, a crosswalk is a crosswalk. And this came out of your mouth. Or it's either I'm getting older and I can't hear very well, but when I told you about kids having to cross the street 3 times to go over to the other side of the street, or come out in the middle of the road, you said, well, then they're gonna have to come out into the road.
No, I said then they'd have to go around. They'd have to take the long way around. I would never say the kids.
Apparently, I must be
What
getting
I,
out of here.
I would never say the kids, but I can tell you, in school, I walked that route. And even with the crosswalk there, I walked in the middle of the road. So kids are going to anyway, and they have
Well,
before,
certainly
and
they
they have,
would anyway,
and they
but-
did before.
But most of my little ones come down the sidewalks because most of them will stand up there and they're going like this. They're looking down the street and crossing the street. My little one knows enough to go. Then he goes, your sidewalk, it's all gone, Grandma. I said, yes, the sidewalk is gone.
Ideally, they would go across and do the 3 across. They're not, I understand and I agree, they're not going to. Kids are gonna go into the road and cross there.
But then why didn't you finish that sidewalk off there? You finished everybody else's, 8 little pieces. They have a severely handicapped child in a wheelchair. They have no sidewalk. When the little bus comes to pick that child up, they have no walkway to bring her down. They're coming through grass.
That was because.
They stopped it.
When we submitted our project, that was the boundaries of the project as accepted. Did
Don't
not
tell me
include
it
that
touches
piece.
the school.
No, they didn't, we didn't have a reason for that one. But that was not in the boundaries of the project that were accepted. It was to extend that piece of sidewalk. The connection to the school was then to cross Walnut right there and then take Walnut down.
Well, I don't see making kids cross this way, and then back over this way. You're putting them out in the road 3 times to come across. That does not make no logical sense in any way, shape, or form.
I don't disagree with you that it doesn't make a lot of sense, except
And
that
because
we couldn't,
it's up
but
high.
we couldn't put the crosswalk in
I
because of
haven't had
ADA
blind
standards.
people and I've had people with canes. Well, now they got them 3 plunger canes.
I understand that, but this was done with state money, so we had to make it to ADA standards. And ADA standards, that crosswalk could not meet ADA standards. So that is why that crosswalk was taken out.
Well, I just do not see that at all. And then furthermore, I don't even get a walkway going up to the road. Everybody else, but of course, then apparently my hill is too high. Well, knock down your boulevard and that, because it isn't mine, it is technically your boulevard. Level her down to level. And do that. Level down then that's your boulevard, not mine. I pay taxes on it, but technically it belongs to you.
And that's why you cut trees.
Yeah, but technically it belongs to you, not me. But I have to maintain it, or you come along and give me a fine. So you just can't win with the city, or apparently nobody else. But I'll tell you what, if there would have been more women engineers, they would have planned them sidewalks a heck of a lot better.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So worried about blind people, someone blind's gonna trip on that sidewalk going down my street.
I'm Yolanda Nora, and I live at P.O. Box 348, Porterville, Arizona. And I'm just gonna, first of all, thank you, Dr. Hayes, for reminding the council about the Pledge of Allegiance. I'm a veteran, I'm very proud of this nation of ours. So, thank you. I'm just gonna read the letter so I make sure that I don't forget anything. Okay, received a letter by mail from the city of Norway in Arizona, where I now reside, informing me of construction work being started on Walnut Street. I have owned and paid taxes on my home at 422 Walnut Street for 47 years. And in all that time, no improvements or renovations have been made on the east side of the 400 block on Walnut Street. All my 4 children and now grandchildren have attended Norway School. My granddaughter, Jordan Zimmerman, is wheelchair confined and in a very delicate and fragile bone condition. The RNA transportation bus who picks her up for school, my daughter and me struggle getting her in the wheelchair up the existing remnants of the existing border sidewalk driveway. It's never been fixed, and there is an existing sidewalk. All I am asking is to replace about 212 feet from north to south of the sidewalk and 3 yards or so access on the driveway, just like the ones that were done across the street on the west side. All my family and Jordan watched for weeks all the construction going on. I waited and waited for them or you, the city, to start our side. On August 5th, I was informed by a concerned neighbor who observes the struggles and hardships my daughter goes through getting Jordan up the dilapidated street border that our side was not going to be done. I sincerely hope and pray that you look into this situation, which I feel is discriminatory to handicapped children, the older neighbors with children, they go to Norway School, and us, the taxpayers, on the east side of 400 block of Walnut Street. Sincerely yours, Yolanda Nora.
Thank you. As I've said before, the reason that side wasn't done is it wasn't in the project. The Safe Routes to Schools project used the other side of the street to connect to the school, and so that's why that side of the street was not done.
Well, actually, my property almost connects to the school. It's on the,
I know,
You
I'm
know.
just letting
and
you
all
know.
my children, they have to cross right into the street. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Linda Anderson. I live at 430 Walnut, and my understanding of these sidewalks were for the kids and the handicapped. Jordan is handicapped. She's confined to a wheelchair. If anyone should get a sidewalk, it should be in front of her house. Okay, you said it wasn't in the plans. According to the school, it doesn't go all the way to the school, is why the sidewalk wasn't replaced. But you replaced a portion on Section Street by the library. That doesn't go all the way to the school. What's the difference?
The only thing I can answer with that was what was approved from what was submitted, what the state approved as part of the
But it's
project.
for the kids and the handicapped. Here's a prime example. We have a handicapped child on the block, but the sidewalk isn't getting replaced. Why should she be excluded?
There was nobody deliberately excluded. It was,
She's handicapped. You're talking a child that's confined to a wheelchair. You can't even take her down our sidewalk because it's all broken, it's uneven. They have to push her in the street. Wow, isn't that safe?
like I say, I've explained why. This wasn't part of the project. Nobody was deliberately excluded. This was not, that area was not in the project to do. That side of the street was not in the project to do. So that's, I don't have anything else I can add to that.
Well, it's more of a discrimination against the handicapped because she is
It's not a
handicapped.
discrimination against the handicapped. It's
Well,
not a
maybe I should
discrimination against
contact them
anybody.
and find out. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to address the council? Yes, Jim.
Jean Bradford, 2465 Travis Farm Road. I have a couple questions.
Okay.
A few meetings ago, the trees that were taken down, did we receive any money for those trees? You were possibly going to talk to the logger, or the jobber, or whoever.
Yeah, Gene, the gentleman did come by, I met with him, and after I showed him what we had, he failed to give me a bid on what he would pay for them, so he declined to purchase them.
What we'll be doing then is selling it as firewood?
Like we did last year, where the people have to come to the city yard to pick it up,
Yeah,
like $100.
yeah.
Yeah,
Another
something
way-
like that, we haven't got
We
it.
haven't decided the exact how much yet and all that, but yeah, that's going to be similar to how it's been done in the past.
How can you sell diseased wood? That's against the law.
Well, I'm going to ask that you please quit yelling out from the audience. You'll be given a chance to talk, and you've been given, so I'm going to have to ask you to please stop yelling out from the audience.
Okay. And I do agree with some of the speakers tonight about not informing the public when you're doing projects. There's been times, if I haven't been at this meeting, that projects go on and you learn about them after the fact.
If you're not in the area that it's going on, I agree. That the meeting, this meeting here is where that information gets out. But for almost all the projects we do, there's there's project area meetings where people in the area get letters. And then you meet with the engineer and the city, and everybody sits down and goes over the scope of the project and the timing of the project for those in the area.
Well, I have never received a letter from the city of Norway. I mean, I get a notice in the electric bill once in a while.
But that's,
But I have-
if you had the property in the project area, then you would for most of the projects, not every project, but most of them.
But, again, like, sometimes when the council makes a decision to purchase property, to sell property, you don't know it unless you're at this meeting.
Correct. But this meeting is also on TV, it's also on the internet, and the paper does a good job covering the points that we go over at the meeting. So there are opportunities if people want to know what goes on, that they can find out on their own.
Well, I appreciate all the people that have come out tonight. I sincerely do, and I hope they'll repeat. And that's it for now. I thank you.
Thank you. Is anybody else in the public?
Yes, I forgot one thing, I haven't seen your moment. If you send out a letter sometimes, like you did this last time, wouldn't it be a good idea to list the ordinances that we're supposed to observe in town? Because there's so many of them that some of us don't know any of them.
They're online.
Online. How many?
I-
I know. But wouldn't it be all right, because you had a
Under
nice
what
letter
circumstance?
in with the bill this month, why not put it in there, because everybody gets it?
Under what circumstance are you talking about? I don't understand exactly.
No, no, the ordinances that we should comply with, like where to park, where not to park, when you have your cars off the street. Some people that are new in town, I've got a new neighbor down here, I don't think he knows anything about it, and there's another one that lives across the alley. He's the guy for the Navy. He's a recruiter.
That's a
They're
little
new people,
difficult.
and they're renting.
That's a little difficult because we have like 411 ordinances on the book. Some have repealed others, but there's a lot of ordinances to just send out a blanket.
There's that many? I thought maybe
Well,
you had
the
about
next,
15 or
the
20.
truck route ordinance is ordinance 412. So that would mean there's 411 other ordinances that, a lot of them have been repealed, one to replace one, but there's a lot out there that, we could
That's why
maybe do
people don't know
something.
what they got.
We could
I
maybe
can see
do
why.
something with some of the stuff we do, because we do a couple times a year, we do a newsletter.
Yeah, I know, there's
We
a
could maybe
newsletter
do
that
something
goes
in
out.
there, just kind of a reminder, this is an ordinance, we can do something like that.
Okay.
We could do something like that.
Okay,
That's a good idea, thank you.
Since I'm not supposed to yell. Okay, if you're selling this firewood and it's diseased supposedly, that's against the law to sell diseased firewood. So how do can you explain that? If all these trees are dead and diseased, you are not supposed to be selling diseased wood.
Did you? I thought you.
Mr. Forrester of that, I mean, everybody here thinks they're Forresters, so. You can't even take it across the state border.
Right, you can't take it out of the,
Right,
you can't
so
take it
then
across county lines.
Right, and you're not supposed to be selling diseased wood either.
Joe, let's check with
I
Otto on
will
that.
check into that.
Check with Otto on that.
I think that just refers to the emerald borer ash, which is strictly ash trees. You're not allowed to transport that any place. But I don't think it's the ash borer. But I
Mine
think
was a
that's what that
maple tree,
rule
and They
is.
supposedly said it was diseased, which it wasn't, but, I don't know. If it's diseased wood, it shouldn't be sold.
We'll check with Otto on that. Anybody else?
I have an issue that's my name hasn't changed since I was here. I have another issue. We have that ATV, that
Yes.
side by side in that ordinance. Okay, right by my house, and I understand that for, like, during the school, when school is in session, I can understand that, but we have a side by side. And when school is no longer in session, just like our parking ordinance for winter parking, where we can't park on the street during winter time, but then when it's spring, we can go back to the street. Okay, couldn't that be the same with that ATV? If I want to go to my friend's house on Main Street, I have to come across the highway, I have to go down to Iron or Mine, then I have to cross over there, then I have to go up, though I know some people in town that every now and then sneak down that hill.
What,
And I want the same license that that person has.
what, we'll talk,
Judy,
you know what we'll do? I'll talk to the police chief about it.
You know, would
and
it
we'll
be
see
too
about-
hard to have, you know, like, when school?
The
is-
intent was for when school was, so
Yes.
I will talk to the police chief, and we'll see if we can do something with that for you.
Okay, I'd appreciate that because, like I said, I understand the school and I understand
Yep.
about that, but in the summer when there's no
I,
longer,
like I say, I'll talk to the police chief,
Thank
we'll
you
see if
very
we can
much.
do something.
yeah.
I agree with you
Anybody
100%, Judy. There's no need for it to be on from, you don't have to.
Lee,
Ray, on the dump pit up on the top of the hill here, that's strictly for construction materials, and we keep that gate locked?
Yeah, that's for inert materials, that's for sand, gravel.
Right.
Yeah.
I walked through the wide open gate yesterday, 5 o'clock. What's our liability if we keep that gate wide open all weekend?
They're working with a contractor, that's probably why they have it open.
Yeah, it's been open for the contractors in town to
During
dump.
the week, they weren't working Saturday and
No,
Sunday?
I agree with you, Lee.
I'm
It did
saying
not get shut. It should have been
It should
shut.
be locked on
Yes.
weekends. Okay. One other thing, well, two actually. This passage of Proposal 1, how much is that going to cost the city
Oh,
in lost revenue?
well, their estimate was that we were going to receive 80% of our revenue back. I'm not that optimistic, but I don't have the figures off the top of my head. I gave those to you in a couple of memos. I can pull those memos, find out what, you know, what that amount was. We have that amount. But the way that the rules are set up, it's 80% of your total. And then you get it, the way that they describe it is you're going to get 100% of your essential services, which they consider police, fire, and ambulance. So, I mean, the property tax accounts for 26% of our revenue. You know, so you take a portion of the budget that you have for police and fire. I mean, we could claim 100% of that, but, you know, they're still gonna try and
Well, if
hold
you
you
can-
to 80% of your total.
But they're saying that you're going to get the 80%.
That's what they're
We'll
telling
find-
us,
yeah,
and
we'll
that,
find
and
out when we
there's
get
a
it.
way that it's just like the revenue sharing, you know, there's a form you have to fill out, there's calculations you have to make, there's things you have to add with the form. You have to apply for it every year, so it's not a guarantee.
Okay, well,
I'm not optimistic.
if you get a chance, see if you can come up with a figure. A while back, probably a month ago, and Chris might know something about this, either Nagani or Ishpeming, I forget, been forgetting a lot of things lately. Nagani or Ishpeming, they lost or sold their TV city system.
They shut it down.
They shut it down, that's
Yeah,
what it was.
Another party bought it.
Sold it, oh, okay, just wondering if we knew anything about that, so we don't follow down their footsteps as to what they did wrong, where they went wrong?
You're not following their footsteps.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
We are,
Okay,
we've met with them a number of times, they've come down and wanted to know what we were doing, and they're a different situation.
but it was city-owned.
It was city-owned, but they were overbuilt by charter. And was charter first, or were they first?
They were first and Charter overbuilt them,
Yeah.
1-to-1.
Okay, that's all I have.
Dr. Hayes.
Well, I'd like to see some type of resolution thanking or commemorating Jay's service to the city. He was city attorney for,
We plan to have that for next meeting, we just wanted to make sure we took the time to write it correctly and write a good one.
okay, I just wanted to make sure it was gonna be done.
Yep.
Yeah, we've been working on that, Dr. Hayes.
Okay. And I hate to belabor the point of repair after the winter disaster, but I would think that the state ought at least cover the repair of the highways, the state highways through the city.
I would too. They're not going to, but I would like that very much.
Because that seems like that's gonna be some of the most expensive work that came
It will
out
be.
of it. Do we have any estimates?
Yeah, we had one, Joe, what was that?
$153,000 for the two repairs, US 8 and US 2 intersection, and the crossing by Stevenson. That's the quotes that we received. 153 for both.
Well,
That was the only quote we received, was the one quote. We put it out, there was the only one responder. That was for 153,000.
Are we planning on doing anything on these, Joe? Because
I wasn't,
I've had a number of I had a couple of calls.
okay, I will tell you, I'll tell you what the,
People asking me, especially over on this end of town.
I'll tell you what the plan is. We contacted MDOT. MDOT doesn't have a problem with us not working on them and fixing them this fall yet. They said we can go through the winter. So I plan on doing something next year on them. But in the meantime, at the Citgo station where we tore out the concrete, we're going to replace that concrete on the corner so there isn't dirt on that corner. We're going to take the grader and we're going to put the blade on that cold mix patch we have and try to smooth it off so it's not as bumpy as what it currently is, and fix it up so it's smoother during the winter. That's what the plan is.
Fine.
Okay?
On the highway, US 2,
Yes.
I would think that, have you thought of maybe pulling this blacktop up, and as long as we've got a blacktop machine in town, blacktopping it, so you gotta, I think the problem, what we're running into there, Joe, is the noise and the bumps from the trucks and the cars going by. I mean, that
Okay.
over there to me is much more priority than US 8, where you're stopped and you're
Okay.
crawling over it slow. I mean, to me, I don't even notice US 8 should be repaired as far as I can see. But the one on US 2, that's where all your complaints are coming.
According to MDOT, the concrete that we pulled out, the 8 inches of concrete that was under the asphalt on the intersection has to be replaced.
Well, I'm not saying that.
Yeah,
Can't we
I know, I'm just telling you why.
Can't we just take that out now and have the blacktop machines lay,
Yeah.
in 2 hours, we got it out, we got a nice smooth surface put in there, compacted, and we're good to go until you got the 150,000?
I can have a discussion with Ray tomorrow about that. Yep.
well, it's not gonna be too expensive and they have to replace it all next year.
Talk to your tourists that go over it every day, Doc.
They only go over it once going through.
Yeah, one way, going through, I have to worry about it coming back.
What else you have?
Do we have a road plan coming up?
We've been working, I'm trying to work with Coleman Engineering and QCAD actually, to get our road plan done.
Okay, I just
Been
wondered,
way
'cause
late
that
here.
was gonna be in August, I thought.
Yeah, I was.
Just asking.
Got delayed.
Those are my questions.
Chris?
I got a few. Joe, with the kind of dry summer that we've had, well, unfortunately, it's been cool too, so we haven't been generating as much. We haven't probably had the usage as high as normal. How is our budget looking in electrics? I know we were pretty tight on revenues, and
We've had a pretty decent summer so far with water and generation. And the reason is there was some work that was done by We Energies above us. They had to lower some elevations. So we had fairly decent water, even though we didn't get the rain. We had good water in the river. I gave Ray the report today. Even in July, we still generated 65 to 63% of the kilowatt hours that were consumed in the system. So we're doing well.
is there lower usage due to the cool weather affecting any of
That is some too. Our demands are down because people don't have to run their air conditioners. And they're saving some money doing that, which saves us money. We did have our July electric bill was about $118,000, which in past years it was up in the $160,000 range. So, and the months before that we did really well. So we're doing well.
The stumps, how are we, it seems like we kind of stalled out in that for a little bit.
Yes, we pulled off the stumps. We're now working on trying to get the streets repaired. And from an operational standpoint, there were some vacations that were scheduled that people took off. We just didn't have the manpower.
Okay.
We did get some quotes for having a contractor come in and remove those stumps. And that's something that we can have a discussion about if we want to do that. Or we were averaging about 17 a day when we were on it, which I thought was pretty good.
Be nice to keep it in-house if we can keep it
Yeah,
on top.
I agree. I think we should keep it in-house. I'm just afraid that I'm not going to get after it as much as what some people would like me to, as fast. But I'd like to keep it in-house.
Have we been keeping the street cleaner out?
Yeah, we've had the street sweeper
Do they
out.
typically go down the alleys at all? I mean, is that?
Well, most of the alleys are gravel, so we don't
but I
run
mean,
it
the-
on
the
that,
paved
but,
ones?
yeah.
Okay. It just-
we will
some
go
of the
down
parking
those.
lots seem to be getting a little rough with gravel and rocks
Okay,
and stuff. So
all right.
that's something we can look at.
Just anything in, any lots in particular, or just,
Just the ones downtown,
okay,
noticed.
all right.
About the trees in the boulevards and the replacement, we had talked at one time about the nursery and the fact that we were growing trees out there, and at some point, when those trees were mature enough, that we were gonna start putting those back out in the boulevard. So, is that still the plan at some point to do that? I mean, do we start growing those trees down there? Where are we at with the
Yeah,
nursery?
we're trying, Kurt's trying to look after that nursery. That is.
Is trying to, or he actually is looking?
Well,
at
it's
that?
been a struggle. We're still working on an irrigation system out there.
Okay. Because we do have a plan in place.
Yeah,
From years
we
ago
do.
that we talked about putting the nursery together and growing our own trees that we could at, I believe it was at no cost to put them back into the boulevard.
Well, we get the trees extremely cheap because they're so small. And then try and grow them up and then
Correct.
get them out.
But the idea was at no cost to put these back in the boulevards, ones that we were growing in the nursery. Correct.
I can't tell you that because,
Okay.
here's the thing, it's just like the sidewalk replacement program. When you have a number of people that have paid their 50%, all right, I mean, we'd love to go out and replace all the sidewalk, replace all the trees, but then the people that have paid their 50% will come in and be the first ones back here in this council complaining that, hey, I paid for my 50%, why are you giving these people trees, why are you giving these people sidewalks? So we're just trying to be very sensitive to that issue as well.
And I understand that. And I mean, with the sidewalks, whether it's part of a project or people pay to be in it, and same with the trees. If you pay to put your tree in, or you wait 5 years until the city gives you a free tree. I mean, it's the risk you take when you're doing these things. But I just want people to know that the city has a plan with the trees and the nursery and everything else.
Yeah, well, we're trying to have that available, all right? But obviously, we're going to handle these projects or these initiatives based on the directive that we get from the council. So, I mean, if that's the council's wish, we will do that. We have no problem with that.
And then I guess I'll make a comment on the safe routes to schools. And I do appreciate all the comments that we had here tonight. It's nice to see people showing up to the meetings. From my standpoint, I believe there was a separate committee from the school that actually worked on this plan for a year or so, correct?
It was the city, some people from the city, some people from the school, and some people from the public, I believe. Right?
Yeah, the program is designed to be not run by the city. They made it very clear when it first came out. This is not a municipal project. This is a school-run project. You can go through all the documentation, and that's what it specifically says. They're supposed to manage the overall project. There's a number of years that you have to go through, that they have to go through, in order to even get to the point of where they identified the routes and then have an application into the MDOT. The makeup of this committee, which is, again, it has to be spearheaded by not only the school, parents and administrators and teachers. There was a whole number of people that were on the committee. I didn't go to every meeting, but, you know, I was in and out of some of those committee meetings. Our police chief, mostly Captain Smith, when he was here. And, you know, so they came to us for specific questions through the process. They had walking audits. There was about 3 years where they went through. The actual routes that were selected for the application were actually, it was a much larger project. And it had a different look to it, obviously. But what we had to do is, when we submitted it, the folks in Lansing took that and they said, no, these are your parameters. And they went with the engineer and they said, this is how it has to be set up. And so they selected the acceptable route locations.
Because I remember when we initially looked at the safe routes to schools, there was a lot more involved in it than what we actually ended up with. A lot got taken out of that project, from what I understand. And then actually, a lot got taken out, and then a little bit got put back in just before it started. So, unfortunately, it was out of our hands on a lot of it because, again, we weren't really, the council itself wasn't part of the actual planning of it. We approved the engineering and the overall plan. We had lots of questions on it as well, but ultimately it goes down to the state, and they make the final decision. And obviously, they don't know the intricacies of where sidewalks are in front of people's houses and this and that. So I just wanted to give you a little explanation of kind of the council's opinion, or my opinion on the Safe Routes to Schools program. It was a good program. I think it did what it was supposed to do, but obviously there were some spots that were missed, and hopefully we'll get those issues taken care of for you. That's all.
George?
Well, I have to agree with a lot of you people out there. The city lacks tremendously in communications. I don't know how we're going to correct it. And according to Chris, on these routes to school, some of the things they've done, and I spent a lot of time out there because they went by my house talking to these people. You shake your head, because some of the stuff they do makes no sense absolutely at all. And then they turn around and they'll do something else, and you say, why did you do that now? Where they needed the stuff, they didn't put it. I agree 100%. You got a very big problem over there. The sidewalks are terrible. And Judy, I mean, as far as Jeremy is right on that little sidewalk there going up there, there's nothing the city can do about it because they're handicap accessible, they're too steep. What are the other routes? I have no idea. But, yeah, even if they would have went with a 4-foot sidewalk up there, so it's not handicapped, just put a 4-foot sidewalk up, it might at least solve part of the problem, you know. But they're some of the stuff you just look and shakes your head. And I don't know. I get mighty frustrated as much as you people out there because they're. I guess that's about it. Joe, how are you coming, by the way, on the dam itself, on the gates and stuff?
The dive has been completed, and we've filled one of the cracks. We slowed the water down to 65% from what it was before entering into the generator building. We were scheduled to do a September 1 start on the installation of the temporary dam to work on container gates, and looks like Brennan might have to wait till about the 15th because of logistics, but still on schedule to get it done this fall. There's been some chipping away at concrete in front of the vertical buildings. They're done demolitioning that and taking the old concrete out. We sent the divers down to take a look at the concrete construction underneath the water level, and it was in excellent condition. It doesn't need any repairs underneath the water line. Everything was at water line or above it due to the freeze thaw
Yeah.
So we've removed about, some areas about a foot of concrete, other areas only 6 to 8 inches. And they'll be pouring that back here within another week or so, putting that back in place, so.
Okay.
Real happy with the way things are going.
Good. That's all.
Okay, the only thing I got is, we need to move fairly quickly here on what we're gonna do about a city attorney. I received notice on Thursday that they were gonna be closing the office on Friday, at which point I did talk to the chief, and I talked to Tricia. Ray was on vacation, but she let him know. Friday, we got the letter from Jay Oliveris' office that said the office was going to be closed as of that day, as of Friday. We had intended, and the expectation was his brother Larry would be filling in until we could hire somebody new. We don't have that, so as of right now, we do not have a city attorney. The long-term plan is to go out for RFPs and get proposals and do a bid like we would anything else. But in the short term, I think we need to move to get somebody in place, because there are things we need a city attorney for, like with the police department, like with some of these questions that we've had with the truck route ordinance. And two ways to really look at and do it. One would be that the attorney has to be approved by the council, but either know we're gonna have a special meeting coming up fairly soon before the next meeting for one, or to give the manager the authority to hire the interim city attorney and then do the proposals like we would for the long-term replacement. What's the council's prerogative on that, opinion on that? Because we do need to get moving. There will be a special meeting. If we do that route, there will be a special meeting before the next one, probably in a week or two, within a week or two. So what's the council's feeling? What's the council's
We should
opinion?
have a special meeting.
Okay. So okay.
I am open
Okay.
for anything, it doesn't make any difference to me.
All right,
one way or
then,
the other.
Ray will try to get some pricing from somebody. Talk to him quick.
Jeremy, why don't you have Mr. Anderson, get some ideas on who we think might,
That's
who
what we'll
is
do.
able to fill in until whenever.
That's what we'll do. And then just be noticed, you'll be getting a call at some point here fairly soon about a special meeting. We do have a special meeting tomorrow morning to discuss the scope of the sewer treatment plant project. It's at 8 o'clock in the morning here at City Hall. And that's just a reminder for council and if anybody in the audience wishes to attend. That's all I have. Joe.
I have no further comments.
Tricia. Ray.
I have
Need a motion to adjourn.
Make the motion, we adjourn.
Support.
Motion made by Chris, supported by George. Roll call.
Mr. Oja?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Dr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Gotstein?
Yes.
Mr. Ball?
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.